Today I'm going to share with you 4 different options for keeping your kunekunes over the winter. G'day there, I'm Dana from Fantail Valley Homestead, and here we keep kunekune pigs, and this is our second winter that we have kept them, and we have kept them in several different ways. And the way we're doing it this year is probably my favourite way. I think it's not the cheapest option, but I think it's going to save us the paddock and keep the pasture in as best condition as possible. Now, the very first winter we kept our kunekune pigs, we put clips in their noses to try and stop them rooting, and we kept them in the pasture for the winter. Now, unfortunately, our pasture still bears the scars of the kunekunes being kept on the pasture for the entire winter. Kunekunes are naturally pasture pigs. They naturally prefer to eat grass, but as soon as the rain comes and the ground gets nice and soft, they go for the grubs and the worms and the roots of the grass as well. And so subsequently, despite even having clips in their noses to hopefully stop them digging, they still manage to root the ground up quite badly and leave us with ground that took forever to recover when springtime came. And we have decided that we did not want to do that again this year. So the pigs that we did have in this top paddock, they were for the freezer, so we have processed them thankfully before the big rain came, but you can see the damage that they have done to the pasture here. We actually have the goats up in this paddock at the moment because we're on baby watch with River, but you can see here just how mangled the ground is from having the pigs in here. And these pigs, one of them, she still had the clips in her nose, and the other one had managed to pull them out. And even with the rings in their noses, they still managed to make quite a mess. And you can see here all this little fine baby grass. It is starting to regrow, but the amount of grass that will regrow on here will be nothing compared to what we would usually have in the pasture. Now, option 2 for keeping the kunekunes over the winter, we don't yet have established here, and that is to grow them in a forest over the winter. The upside to a forest is that generally it doesn't matter too much if they disturb the soil, if they dig up the bugs and stuff. They'll make the most of the weeds and scrub, those sorts of things that are growing, and the weeds and the brush and the scrub that are growing there. So generally speaking, pigs will often leave forestry in a much more productive, better state than when they found it, as long as you keep moving them through. So this is our food forest area, and we did try to overwinter them in here. We do have quite a big layer of mulch and compost on the ground, which of course the grass has grown through, but we thought that maybe that they could just sort of happily root around in here and not cause too much damage. But unfortunately, the trees in here are not big enough to withstand the pigs' abuse. So we did have to move them out of here and move on to Plan C. But if you have an established woodlot or an established wooded area, that is a perfect place to run the pigs over the winter. It gives them some natural shelter, as well as letting them engage their rooting noses while the ground is nice and soft. And ground that has been rooted up by pigs will usually come away with plenty of grass. The seeds are already there in the natural seed bank, and they will come up when the springtime happens. Now, the upside to options A and B is that it allows, fixing my bucket, it allows the pigs to pretty much continue eating for free. They're able to just eat what grass is growing or whatever they can find in the forest. Options C and D are a little more money intensive because you're also going to have to be feeding them. Option C, of course, is to move them into a barn or a shed or a covered in pig run. And this is when you will have to bring them food. Kunekunes, of course, usually will eat lots of grass, so they will eat hay. And if you are choosing to feed them pig pellets or a pig feed, something like that, usually with kunekunes you will give them half the normal feed a pig ration and then top it up with either hay pellets or actual hay itself, because otherwise your kunekunes will put on a fantastic amount of weight over the winter and get too fat. One thing you can feed them is this, which if we make the camera look at it properly, hopefully you can see it there. This is a pig feed meal. It's basically a mixture of wheat and barley and oats and rye, and I think there's some split peas in there as well. And we soak this for a couple of days to let it ferment, and it means the pigs get a lot more nutrition out of it, and they seem to enjoy it better, and a lot less of it ends up in their poop, which I can only presume means it's more effective, more efficient, and costing us less money. If you're considering raising kunekune pigs, I have put together a beginner's guide for homesteaders and smallholders, how to get started with kunekunes and some basic health information, what you need to know about feeding them, and how to breed them yourself as well. So I will put the links in the description below. You can either buy them through my website if you want a PDF version, and if you want a Kindle or a hard copy, you can buy them through Amazon. Right, I'm going to take this grain down to feed the pigs, and I'll show you what we've chosen to do to overwinter our pigs. Right, I can see I'm going to be competing with the roosters to try and talk to you, but you can see the pigs, we have put them in a pen. We've given them a decent shelter, which is lined with quite a lot of straw because they love to burrow on down and make a really good nest. And then on top of that, because they are on a wee bit of a hill, they are getting quite a lot of rain runoff, and we found they were getting really boggy quite quickly. They love to dig and make a bit of a mess. In fact, thank you. In fact, they even worked out how to bite down on their waterer just to let a lot of the water out, and they'd made a massive mud puddle. So we got a big truckload of wood mulch from a local arborist. He's brought it to us. And at the moment we've got about 6 inches of wood mulch in there, and we do plan to add some more. We're just waiting for another truckload to be delivered. The upside to that wood mulch is it gives something for the pigs to dig in that isn't the mud. It's a nice carbonaceous diaper, as it were, to help soak up the wee and the poop and the stink. And it also helps keep them up. It also helps keep them up out of the mud and gives them somewhere dry to lie in the sunshine. What we have at the moment I wouldn't consider a completely perfect setup. What we would like to do is to put some tin around and make that wood mulch much deeper. But at the moment, trying to find a weekend day that, one, we're not busy, and 2, it's not raining, is proving to be quite difficult. So at the moment this is working. They're up out of the mud and they don't stink. In fact, the smell I can smell is actually the chickens behind me, because they need some wood mulch in their runs. We have decided that we're going to keep this as our winter setup for now, and come springtime we're actually going to move the girls out and leave our boar here for a little bit longer. Hopefully the absence will make the heart grow fonder, and we are hoping to be able to breed these guys. And these guys have been together pretty much constantly since they were little, and so far no babies. So we have decided that we might split them up just for a little while to see if we have any better luck with the breeding. Now, of course, the one downside to keeping them penned up like this is that we have no food for them. So we have organised with some people that we know in town to keep all their veggie scraps as best they can, and we are delivering them buckets once a week and picking them up once a week so that we can feed these guys. And my husband also gets a big bin of scraps from a local, I think it's a Turkish restaurant, so it's all veggie scraps, and so these guys get that as well. So we're also on the scrounge for more because we don't ever quite have enough. So we are on the lookout. If anyone knows anyone that happens to be local to us that might have some veggie scraps in vast quantities that we could have, these guys would love you for it. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you have, hit the like button. If you know of anyone that might benefit from it, please feel free to share it. It's one of the best and easiest ways you can help this channel, is to actually share our stuff and just to hit that like button. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to our channel. We bring you videos twice a week on growing and preserving your own food and other homesteading bits and pieces. We'll see you in the next one. See.